Matt with Tips for Truckers, and this is 5 pros and 5 cons about flatbedding. I definitely wouldn't recommend flatbedding to most people, to be honest with you. This is a real tough job. Trucking is psychologically tough, and then flatbedding combines how it's psychologically difficult with it being physically demanding. And I don't think that most people in this world, in this country at least, cannot handle it. Because when you mix the physical and psychological aspect of it, it just compounds. But let's get into it. 5 pros. We'll go with the pros first. The number one thing is you're going to get a lot of exercise. You're not going to be sitting around. It doesn't mean that you're going to be in super good shape if you don't exercise outside of it and if you don't eat right. You got to keep doing that, but it definitely makes it a lot easier to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Number 2, and this is one of my favorite, is unlike today where I got to wait in line, most of the time you don't wait to get loaded. And a big thing too is most of these places are only open from normal business hours, 7, 8 a.m., 6 a.m. to 5 or 6 or something like that. That could help you and that could hurt you. But if you like to have a regular day schedule, flatbedding is definitely advantageous. There's rarely an appointment in the middle of the night. But like I said, that can also hurt you because you might be sitting around waiting for a load. But that goes on to number 3. You rarely sit around waiting for a load flatbedding. I remember when I was hauling reefer and dry van, it seemed like every 2 loads I was sitting around waiting for a good paying load. Well, flatbedding, there's usually always something good. Might just be my company, but number 4 is another one of these. Could be taken good or bad. After I finish tarping and strapping down a load, I am good to go for driving for a while. It gets your blood moving and everything, gets you going, and you're not super tired all the time. And that's just my experience. It seems like when I was reefer or whatever, I was tired all the time, and it's not so much driving a flatbed. And on top of that, we'll combine 2. You could really make your own schedule and adjust it towards whatever you want it to be with flatbedding as opposed to any other sector. Because a lot of these places, it's first come, first serve. And a lot of these places, you call ahead, you make your appointment time, and they'll work with you. More than any other sector that I've ever heard of in trucking. 5 pro is there's so much pride in pulling a flatbed. The number one thing is that you put so much effort into securing your load properly so the public is safe, because that load could fall off your trailer, and there's a lot of pride knowing in that load isn't going to fall off my trailer because I secured it properly. I took the extra time and effort. But the other thing too is this is one of the last jobs, these tough jobs, real manly jobs, quote unquote, are really going by the wayside. And this is one chance for you guys to really prove your stuff. And you don't have to be out there in the oil field like those tough people, men and women out in the oil field, or welders, pipeline welders, or something like that. But those guys are super tough. But flatbed, it is very physically demanding and challenging, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of pride in that aspect, and a lot of pride in being a real tough person when you do it, especially the gals out here that actually do a good job. A lot of them out there, I love seeing it. Keep up the great work, ladies. Yeah, there's just a lot of pride in flatbedding. You really feel like you're a cowboy out here more than when you're just pulling a box. With my number 1 con, man, this job is so tough, it's gonna break you. I mean, You could be one of the toughest people I know. When they pull a flatbed, they'll have days where they'll break down and everything, and it's just super hard to handle it sometimes. There's sometimes you need to get your tarp up there, and there's no crane to lift it up. You got to throw it up there, 150 pounds over top of your head or whatever. Or just so many things that will break you. You got 100-mile-an-hour winds and you got to redo a tarp on the side of the road. All that pride in this job doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from it. This is a tough job with a lot of BS that you got to deal with. So this flatbedding is not for most people. Period. Most people cannot handle it. That's my number one con. Number two is that while you're getting loaded, it's real quick to get loaded, and you got to be out there watching them, make sure they load it correctly. You rarely can go in the back and sleep while they're loading. And then you have an hour or 2 hours of strapping or tarping or whatever you got to do, maybe 3-4 hours. And it's not like, hey, you bump a dock, you go in the back, you take a nap, and then you get the green light and you go. No, it's a lot more involved in that. So probably not going to be able to get quite as much sleep. Third con is if something falls off that trailer, that's on you. Like I said earlier in the pros, you are responsible for that load being secure, and it really, really sucks when you're getting loaded by somebody and you have to argue with them. Hey, you can't load my trailer that way. It's not going to be able to get scaled, or I'm not going to be able to secure it or tarp it properly. That's very difficult. It happens all the time, and you just got to make sure that your load's going to be secure. But that is definitely a big con, having to worry about something falling off your trailer. It'll drive you paranoid, guarantee you. Number 4 is injuries. Most flatbedders I know have gotten injured at one time or another. I've had 2 reported injuries. I broke my ankle twice, and a bunch of other bumps and bruises. It seems like it happens once a month or so at least. You're strapping down, and then my snap binder broke the other day. Luckily I fell backwards, caught myself and everything, but you could fall off the trailer while you're tarping, land on your head. And there's a lot of places. This place, they have tarping stations where they got platforms that come out. A lot of them will have cranes that you can lift up, and it'll drape the tarp over top of your load. But it is so much more dangerous pulling a flatbed than any other sector of trucking, period, end of story. And flatbedding, there's the most amount of injuries and deaths out of any other sector in driving, just period, end of story. That's just the way it is. So if you have a family, I'd strongly consider you're taking a very big risk in your life and your well-being and your ability to take care of your family and make money for them. And if you're flatbedding as opposed to other sectors of trucking. But at the same time, you're probably going to stay in better shape, get more exercise, so you might live longer in that respect than if you're just sitting pulling a box all day. Number 5, and in my opinion the most important, is the wear and tear on your body, mind, spirit, everything that this job is going to be to you. Especially if you have kids and a wife or something like that, even a social life, and it's more so than just with trucking. Flatbedding is just a whole nother animal. It's completely different than pulling a box, Because, like I said, you got to worry about it being secure. You got to worry about your tarp being ripped. You got to worry about maintaining your equipment, not cutting your straps. You got to worry about having enough dunnage. You know, your load being loaded properly. This and that. Middle of the night, hands are soaking wet. It's negative 20 degrees. It's blowing 50-mile-an-hour winds, and your frostbite's kicking in. And your gloves are soaking wet. You're down to your fifth pair of gloves, and you got frostbite, and you got to tarp your load or roll up your tarp. Your tarp's a complete sheet of ice. You got to somehow roll it up and still fit it in your tarp box. I mean, holy cow. I mean, you're in Phoenix trying to tarp and it's 115 degrees outside and you're on top of this black piece of canvas on top of this metal trailer. I mean, just from one extreme to the other. You're going to drive down bull rags drive down crazy roads, but more than any other sector besides that, you're going to drive down some crazy roads. I've had my truck almost fall off a cliff so many times. I mean, I'm going around these tight turns on the side of a mountain, and my steer tire goes off the edge. You know, trailer falls off. You know, rocks give way. You're gonna go down some crazy roads. This flatbedding is so psychologically damaging, and the wear and tear on your body. Like I said, you're getting good exercise, but you get a little bit of injury, especially in a truck, it's going to stick around with you, and it's going to be hard to recover from it too. So, and just the wear and tear on your body. Trucking already has so much wear and tear on your body, and psychologically, it's like, and let alone if something falls off your trailer and kills somebody. I know that has happened before. I know, and I've heard of guys that deleted themselves because that was just so psychologically harmful to them and everything. And it's just no joke, man. It is no joke. The psychological effects of this job. It is not for the faint of heart. And I would guess that maybe less than 0.1% of the population can handle the psychological and physical demands of this job. Period. On top of the turnover rate, you know. So there's the 5 pros and cons of flatbedding.